Be True to Your Preschool is the 15th episode of the 6th season of Full House. This is directed by Zwick, and as always there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. I really enjoyed this episode. We have two main parts of the narrative, one focusing on Kimmy and one focusing on Jessie, Becky, Nicky and Alex. And I'll talk about Kimmy first as I feel like I have the most thoughts with Nicky and Alex. Kimmy has got her driver's license. And, I also forgot, I always mention the intro. The intro is DJ catching Michelle with her diary, but Michelle points out she can't read, it's okay. And DJ leaves the room and Stephanie creeps out of the closet. She was almost busted. And I quite like this. Not that I condone reading somebody's diary, but I like this because I really like seeing Michelle and Stephanie interacting like this. But what's also quite interesting, at least I think it is that the relationship between Stephanie and Michelle is quite different to what it was between DJ and Stephanie. The age difference is the same. It's 5 years between both of them and both sets of sisters. And DJ was never kind of pally with Stephanie. They were never best buddies, and at least very rarely. Whereas we actually see Stephanie and Michelle spending a lot of time together. And I feel like as siblings, they're much closer than DJ and Stephanie were when they were younger, which I just think is quite interesting. And yes, as I was saying, Kimmy got her driver's license and Danny wants to see Kimmy drive before he lets his girls in the car with her, which is fair enough. And he goes off in the car with her, he comes back and he actually has nothing but praise. She's a natural, in Danny's words, and I really like that. It's very rare that Danny says something positive about Kimmy, and it's very rare that we as viewers get to learn that Kimmy is actually good at something. So I think that was really, really great and a really nice thing for Danny to say, but also for the writers to include there. I will say, I don't necessarily think it was wise for all of them to go in the car at once. Danny lets DJ, Stephanie and Michelle go in the car with Kimmy, and I feel like he should have only let DJ go. Or maybe DJ and Stephanie, but Michelle as well. I don't know, maybe I'm being overprotective in that case, but I feel like that was not the wisest decision for Kimmy, having just got her driver's license. But nevertheless, this is what happens, and the car looks incredible. The decor is amazing. And thankfully, they don't get into any accidents or anything, but they decide to tease some kids who are walking on foot, and they get out of the car and they're meant to run around. I don't know, it's not something I've ever heard of before, but this is what they're doing. And they get out of the car and Kimmy accidentally pressed the wrong button. They're now locked out of the car. As luck would have it, Danny is passing by, and they admit pretty quickly, I think it was Michelle who admitted that they were locked out of the car. He learned pretty quickly that this is what had happened, and needless to say, he was quite annoyed at them for messing about and playing games when it's a car. It's not something to be played about with. So Danny was in the right place at the right time. It's 2 miles back to the house, which they have to walk. What would they have done otherwise? It's not as if they had cell phones or anything. I genuinely don't know what they would have done in that situation. So a good lesson there for anybody of any age, but certainly if you've just passed your driving test, maybe don't play games. And if you do, make sure you don't lock yourself out of the car. I enjoyed that part of the narrative. Again, it's nice to have some praise for Kimmy. Then we come to Nicky and Alex. And this starts off with Jessie and Becky with parents of another child called Cooper, and Nicky and Alex aren't very verbal yet. They have the odd words here and there, but then we have Cooper, who looks to be about the same age, and he's talking in complete sentences, and Jessie says, "Cooper talks good," to which Cooper responds, "Cooper talks well." I love that he was correcting Jessie's grammar. And they realise, mostly because of the other parents, that they should have probably filled in the applications for preschools at this point if they want their kids to get into a good school, and suddenly they begin to panic. So they're filling out this application form for this really great school. And when Becky is out of the room sorting the laundry chaos that Joey caused, Joey and Jessie are looking over the application, and Joey kind of suggests embellishing it a little bit because he too wants the best for Nicky and Alex. And Jessie comes around to this pretty quickly. and they lie on the application form. Now, the biggest thing about this that I do not believe, there are two things that I don't believe. And the first is that they send off the application form without Becky ever looking at it, because she didn't know about this lying. And I do not believe that. I don't believe for 1 second that Becky would have said, okay, Jessie, you fill out the form, you put it in the post without ever letting me see it. I don't buy it at all. But obviously the narrative wouldn't have worked the way it did had she seen it. We then cut to the school, and they actually have an interview, and it's a really nice set, really nice environment, and the people doing the interview are actually watching Jessie and Becky through a two-way mirror, seeing how they interact with Nicky and Alex. Jessie ends up making a bit of a fool of himself by picking food out of his teeth in the mirror, and then eventually they do confess that things were not completely honest in the application. And this is the bit that I don't believe either. They go home, Becky and Jessie, and they're talking about this and how they're thinking, actually, maybe this isn't the school for Nicky and Alex, because maybe they're not ready for it, and it would be too much pressure. And on the one hand, yes, I think that is a very sensible way of looking at it, because putting children under too much pressure can have the reverse effect and make them absolutely hate learning and hate education. So on the one hand, I buy it. But on the other, well, there are two things about this that I don't necessarily believe and or agree with. I'm not really sure. They get a letter. Nicky and Alex have been accepted. And I don't agree with it. I don't think any school... Oh, wow. Okay, I'll finish my thought, then I'll say what I was going to say about that. I was going to say I don't think any school should accept children whose parents have lied on the form. That's not to say the children should be punished for that, but certainly when they're as young as Nicky and Alex and everything is going to be controlled by the parents, I feel like that would be rewarding the parents, because let's face it, it's the parents who want the kids to go to that school, not the children themselves. They're too young to know. But I feel like saying, okay, you lied on this, welcome to the school, is not a good look. But the reason why I went, oh wow, is because I only in that moment made the connection between that and the lies or fabrications or indeed embellishments that happened with the college admission scandal. And I should point out, I fully support Loughlin, not for what she did, but because I think that it was misguided, but in her children's best interests, as were Jessie's actions here. So that was a slight interesting tangent. And they get the acceptance letter. As I said, I don't necessarily believe it, but maybe the school saw something in Nicky and Alex and realised that the children shouldn't be punished for Jessie and Becky's actions. Well, Jessie's actions. But at the same time, I feel like starting off that school relationship with lies, maybe they learned their lessons, or maybe, I don't think it's Jessie's character, but certainly the school doesn't know that. So they're basically saying, you're a proven liar, welcome on board. So I don't 100% think that would happen, but maybe I'm wrong. And what I also don't think is believable is that they threw the letter in the trash, and then they read it, and then threw it in the trash again. And I feel like now that they know they're accepted, maybe they should have sat with that just a little bit longer, weighing up the pros and cons, maybe talking to some other parents of kids who go to that school, and then realising it might be too much pressure. But just throwing out the opportunity immediately, I think, was a really bad move. So a lot of things I don't agree with and or believe in there, but nevertheless, we have some great lessons there, that they shouldn't be lying on their form. And also, Nicky and Alex presumably got in on their own merit, because they knew that everything on the form was a lie, and they still said that they could go to that school. So they got in without those lies. And I think that in itself was quite an important lesson as well. And we have some great lessons with Kimmy and DJ and Stephanie and Michelle. Basically, don't mess about if you're in a car, because it won't end well. So, all things considered, I think that this is a pretty solid episode of Full House. A lot of good takeaways, and ultimately, be true to your preschool is definitely an enjoyable episode.